Welcome to the Business Podcast, where today we will be discussing the Equifax data breach. My name is Augie.
I'm Tessa.
I'm Izzy.
I'm Molly.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're going to be getting into the consequences of this data breach, what could have been done to prevent it, and our opinion on the matter. Right? Okay. You want to give us a summary, Molly?
Yeah. In 2017, a large credit reporting agency called Equifax had over 140 million of its customers' personal data stolen. As like other credit reporting agencies, Equifax collected data regarding customer demographics like the typical name, age, and gender, but also more immediate things like addresses, telephone numbers, email addresses, marital status, your income, the number of children you have, and other very personal matters. So Equifax used a middleware program called Apache Struts to help them communicate with their operating systems. And essentially a brief timeline of what entirely happened goes as follows. On March 7th, 2017, Apache Struts recognized a vulnerability in its software. So a couple of days later, they created a patch to remedy this problem. And all the employees using the Apache Struts software were told to apply the patch within 48 hours of its introduction, but for many reasons actually, the patch did not end up being applied to all the systems as thought. And so on May 13th, hackers were able to access a file that held many of Equifax's systems, names, usernames, and passwords. And then within 76 days, the attackers were able to locate 265 files containing unencrypted personal information. And the attackers went undetected because Equifax's intrusion detection security certificate was 19 months expired. So Equifax eventually took action on this by updating their many expired certificates, and then finally on July 30th, Equifax shut down their automated consumer interview system web portal, and the cyber attack had ended.
That's crazy that happened. Let's get into what the consequences of this were.
The data breach also had significant consequences across multiple fronts based on the aftermath of the breach and its implications. Here's an analysis of the potential consequences in each of the specified areas. One of them that was crazy, it was one of the biggest ones, it was direct impact. The data breach exposed sensitive personal information of approximately 147 million individuals, including social security numbers, birth dates, addresses, and in some cases, driver's license numbers. This directly impacted those individuals whose information was compromised, exposing them to identity theft, fraud, and other forms of cybercrime.
That is messed up. There was also business disruption. So this breach caused significant disruption to Equifax's operations. Obviously, they faced investigations, lawsuits, regulatory scrutiny, they had to divert resources away from regular business activities. And additionally, the company's reputation suffered, potentially affecting partnerships and client relationships moving forward.
Wow, that must have cost a lot. So let's get into the recovery cost of the aftermath of the breach. This includes expenses related to investigating the breach, implementing security improvements, offering credit monitoring, and identity theft protection services to affected individuals, legal fees, settlements, and fines imposed by regulators.
There was also many legal consequences. So Equifax faced numerous charges following the data breach. It was subject to multiple lawsuits from individuals that were affected, financial institutions, and government entities. The company also reached settlements with various parties, including a global settlement with the Federal Trade Commission, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and state attorneys general, resulting in significant financial penalties.
And then there was the reputation damage. The Equifax data breach severely tarnished the company's reputation. The incident eroded trust among consumers, financial institutions, and business partners, leading to a loss of credibility and confidence in Equifax's ability to safeguard sensitive information. The reputational damage can have long-lasting effects on consumer loyalty, brand perception, and market competitiveness.
So overall, these 5 consequences of direct impact, business disruption, recovery cost, legal consequences and reputation damage were super significant for Equifax following the data breach. However, the most notable and enduring repercussions were likely their legal consequences, their recovery costs, and their reputation damage, as they had profound financial, operational, and strategic implications for the company.
So that's a long list of the consequences that Equifax faced after the data breach, and I'm going to go over one of the techniques to avoid this kind of incident, which is the CIA triad. The CIA triad stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It's a common model that forms the basis for the development of security systems, and they're used for finding vulnerabilities and methods for creating solutions. The confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information is crucial to the operation of a business, and the CIA triad segments these three ideas into separate focal points. This differentiation is helpful because it helps guide security teams as they pinpoint the different ways in which they can address each concern. Ideally, when all three standards have been met, the security profile of the organization is stronger and better equipped to handle threat incidents, which Equifax did not have. Confidentiality involves the efforts of an organization to make sure data is kept secret or private, and to accomplish this, access to information must be controlled to prevent the unauthorized sharing of data, whether intentional or accidental. A key component of maintaining confidentiality is making sure that people without proper authorization are prevented from accessing assets important to your business. Conversely, an effective system also ensures that those who need to have access have the necessary privileges. There are several ways confidentiality can be compromised. This may involve direct attacks aimed at gaining access to systems the attacker does not have the rights to see, and it can also involve an attacker making a direct attempt to infiltrate an application or database so they can take data or alter it. Integrity involves making sure your data is trustworthy and free from tampering. The integrity of your data is maintained only if the data is authentic, accurate, and reliable. Compromising integrity is often done intentionally. An attacker may bypass an intrusion detection system, change file configurations to allow unauthorized access, or alter the logs kept by the system to hide the attack. Integrity may also be violated by accident. Someone may accidentally enter the wrong code or make another kind of careless mistake. Also, if the company's security policies, protections, and procedures are inadequate, integrity can be violated without any one person or organization accountable for the blame. And for availability, even if the data is kept confidential and the integrity is maintained, it's often useless unless it is available to those in the organization and the customers they serve. This means that systems, networks, and applications must be functioning as they should and when they should. Also, individuals with access to specific information must be able to consume it when they need to, and getting to the data should not take an inordinate amount of time.
There were faults in the network, application, end user, and organizational assets layer in Equifax security. These principles are often represented in a triangle, with each side representing one aspect of security. Here's how Equifax security faults might align with each layer of the security approach. So in confidentiality, the organizational layer, Equifax fault in this layer could be related to inadequate access controls and failure to properly safeguard sensitive data. The breach resulted in the exposure of confidential information such as social security numbers and financial data of millions of individuals. And in the network layer, the breach may have also occurred due to vulnerabilities in Equifax network defenses, allowing unauthorized access to confidential data. The organization may have lacked adequate policies and procedures for keeping the information safe, leading to exposure of the confidential data. And then in integrity in the application layer, Equifax fault here could involve weaknesses in their software system and applications, potentially allowing attackers to manipulate or alter sensitive data. For example, Equifax system could have been exposed to exploitation if they had not been properly patched or updated. And in the end user layer, inadequate training or low security awareness among staff members may have contributed to actions that jeopardize the data's integrity, such as falling for phishing scams or unintentionally disclosing private information. And then in the availability asset, the network layer, The issue with Equifax in this tier may have to do with the way the breach or resulting cleanup efforts affected the availability of services. For example, if Equifax system were overwhelmed by the volume of attack traffic during the hack, it may have caused service disruptions. And then in the organizational layer, the hack and its aftermath may have had an influence on Equifax service availability, resulting in a loss of trust among customers and stakeholders, as well as possible financial damages. So in summary, Equifax security faults happen in multiple layers of their security approach. At the organizational layer, there were failures in access control and data protection. In the network layer, vulnerabilities contribute to breach and potential service disruptions. And then weakness in application and software system compromise data integrity, insufficient security awareness and training among end users exacerbated the breach. And the overall impact on organizational assets, including availability, was significant, leading to reputational damage and financial losses.
Wow, that's great. Thank you guys. So to conclude, if Equifax had prioritized these robust security measures across all layers, including organizational policies, network defenses, application security, end user training, and overall asset protection, this breach never would have happened. This incident underscored the need for continuous improvement and adaptation to evolving cyber threats in this increasingly interconnected and digital world. Since 2017, the industry's seen multiple improvements, and this served as a moment in time that should never be repeated again in the industry.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night.